Imagine a land of burning hot deserts. Now, imagine high mountains covered in pure white snow. Between these mountains and deserts, there are ancient, beautiful cities. You can smell fresh bread and sweet spices in the air. This is not just a place on a map. This is a place with a deep soul. Today, we are traveling to a land of poetry, kings, and incredible survival. We are talking about the country we now call Iran. But for most of human history, the world knew this incredible place by a different name. They called it Persia. This is not just a simple history lesson. It is a 3,000-year-old story about human strength. It is a story about rising up, falling down, and always finding a way to survive the hardest times. The names Persia and Iran can be a little confusing. Let me explain it very simply. For thousands of years, the people who lived there called their home Iran. But the ancient Greeks called it Persia, named after a specific region in the south. The Western world used the name Persia for centuries. So, both of these beautiful names describe the exact same magical place. To truly understand the heart of this place today, we cannot look at the modern news. The news only shows us a tiny piece of the picture. We must go back. We must travel back to the very beginning of the story. We are going back to a time when great empires were built with stone, swords, and fire. But this empire was completely different. Welcome to our journey. I am so glad you are here with me today. Learning English does not have to be boring. You do not need to memorize difficult grammar rules from a heavy textbook. Instead, you can learn simply by listening to powerful, true stories about our world. When you listen to a good story, your brain learns naturally. You feel the emotion, and you remember the words. Before we travel back in time to meet the first great king, pause the video. Tell me in the comments, where are you listening from today? I love seeing all the different countries in our amazing community. And if you love learning English through real stories, please subscribe. Your support helps me make more of these stories for you. Now, let us return to the ancient world. Imagine the ancient world. It was a very dark and violent place. Kings were proud of being cruel. When a king won a war, he usually destroyed the city. He burned the houses. He took the people as slaves. This was the normal way of life thousands of years ago. Fear was the only way to rule. But then, a man named Cyrus changed everything. Enter Cyrus the Great. He was the founder of the first Persian Empire, more than 2,500 years ago. Cyrus was a military genius. He conquered many lands and created the largest empire the world had ever seen. It stretched from modern-day India all the way to Egypt. But Cyrus is not famous just because he won battles. He is famous for how he acted after he won. Here is a concrete example. When Cyrus conquered the great city of Babylon, he did something shocking. He did not burn it down. He did not hurt the people. Instead, he marched into the city peacefully. He freed the people who had been kept as slaves. He told everyone that they were safe. No one could believe it. A king who showed mercy was a totally new idea. Cyrus understood a deep truth about human nature. He knew that if you rule by fear, people will eventually hate you. If they hate you, they will eventually rebel. But if you rule with respect, people will actually want to follow you. Cyrus wanted his empire to last. So, he built it on a foundation of tolerance, not terror. This was a massive turning point in history. We know this is true because of a special object called the Cyrus cylinder. It is an ancient piece of baked clay covered in writing. Today, it sits in a famous museum in London. Many historians call this clay cylinder the very first paper of human rights in the world. On this cylinder, Cyrus wrote down his promises to the people he conquered. His words were revolutionary. His core rule was beautifully simple. People could keep their own gods. They could speak their own languages. They could practice their own culture. Cyrus did not force anyone to become Persian. He allowed people to be exactly who they were. Because of this freedom, the empire became incredibly rich. Ideas, art, and trade flowed freely across the ancient world. People felt safe. Think about how powerful this is. Even today, thousands of years later, we still struggle to respect people who are different from us. Yet Cyrus the Great figured this out in the ancient world. He brought dozens of different nations together under one peaceful umbrella. He proved that kindness and respect are much stronger tools than anger and violence. It is a lesson we still need today. This is our first great emotional takeaway. True power is not about destroying others. True power is about respecting them. When you build people up, you build a strong foundation for the future. Cyrus built a glorious empire of light and wealth. He built magnificent palaces filled with art. But in the long story of history, nothing lasts forever. Every great empire eventually faces a great fire. And the fire was coming. Across the sea, a young and ambitious king was watching the Persian Empire. He wanted all of its wealth and glory for himself. His name was Alexander. The world remembers him as Alexander the Great. But for the people of Persia, he brought shock, destruction, and tears. The golden age of Cyrus was about to end in flames. Alexander arrived like a massive storm. His armies swept across the land, defeating the Persian forces. The shock was absolute. The great Persian capital, Persepolis, was a wonder of the world. It was filled with giant stone columns and incredible treasures. But Alexander's soldiers burned it to the ground. You can still see the black marks of the fire on the old stones today. The physical empire was completely broken. The kings were dead or gone. The treasure was stolen. For many nations, this level of destruction means the end of their story. They disappear into the dust of history, never to be heard from again. But the Persian culture was deep. The empire was gone, but the spirit of the people survived. They slowly rebuilt their lives. Centuries passed. New Persian kings rose to power. They built new cities and created new wealth. They fought wars with the Romans and traded with the Chinese. The culture remained strong and proud. But history is like an ocean. The waves of change never stop crashing against the shore. And in the 7th century, the biggest wave of all arrived from the hot southern deserts. This was the arrival of the Arab conquerors, carrying a brand new message. They brought a new religion called Islam. This changed everything. It changed the way people prayed. It changed the alphabet they used to write. It completely changed daily life. The old religion of Persia, called Zoroastrianism, began to fade away. A completely new world order took control of the land. When a culture is conquered and its religion changes, it faces a terrible danger. How do you remember who you are? How do you keep your ancient identity alive? This is the fear of losing yourself completely. Many great cultures have faced this exact moment and failed. They lost their language, their history, and their soul to the people who conquered them. Look at ancient Egypt. Look at ancient Babylon. When they were conquered by the Arabs, they adopted the Arabic language completely. Today, the languages of the pharaohs are dead. They are only studied by scientists. But Iran was different. The people of Iran accepted the new religion of Islam, but they refused to give up their language. They fought a different kind of war to save it. They did not fight with swords. They fought with words. And the greatest soldier in this fight was a man named Ferdowsi. Ferdowsi was a poet. He lived about 1,000 years ago. He saw that the beautiful Persian language was slowly dying. People were forgetting the old words. They were forgetting the ancient stories of their kings and heroes. Ferdowsi decided he had to stop this. Ferdowsi made a very simple but incredibly difficult decision. He decided to write down all the ancient myths, legends, and history of Iran in pure Persian. He wanted to capture the soul of his country in a book. He did not use Arabic words. He searched for the oldest, purest Persian words he could find. This became his life mission, and it cost him everything. He worked in a small room for 30 long years. He lost his wealth. He grew old and tired. But he never stopped writing. The result was a massive masterpiece called the Shahnameh, which means the Book of Kings. It is one of the longest poems ever written by a single person. It has more than 50,000 lines. It is a monument made of words. The Book of Kings is filled with epic stories. It has brave heroes fighting terrible demons. It has dragons, tragic love stories, and wise kings. But most importantly, it was written in a beautiful rhythm that people could easily remember. Ferdowsi knew that ordinary people could not read or write. So, he made sure his poetry sounded like music. This was his genius. Because it sounded so beautiful, people started to memorize it. Mothers whispered the poems to their children. Travelers sang the stories around fires at night. Workers repeated the lines while they built houses. The stories of the Shahnameh spread across the entire country. The old Persian language was no longer dying. It was alive and dancing on the lips of millions of people. This is why Iranians love poetry so much today. Poetry literally saved their identity. When the physical empire was destroyed, they built a new empire inside their minds. They built a fortress out of words. Even today, if you ask an Iranian about Ferdowsi, their eyes will light up with pride. They know that without him, they might not be speaking Persian today. This brings us to a beautiful mindset lesson for you. Words are stronger than swords. A sword can conquer a city, but only words can capture a human heart. Language is not just about grammar rules or vocabulary lists. Language is a home. It is a place where culture, memory, and identity live. When you learn a language, you are learning how a group of people feels. For centuries, this poetry guided the Iranian people through many dark times. They survived the Mongols. They survived terrible plagues and famines. Through it all, the rhythm of Ferdowsi kept their hearts beating together. They always remembered who they were. But the world kept turning. The ancient days faded away, and the modern world was coming fast. And it brought a completely different kind of power. We now jump forward to the early 1900s. The world was changing rapidly. Machines were being invented. Cars were filling the streets of Europe. And these machines needed fuel. Deep under the hot deserts of Iran, a British company discovered something that would change history forever. They struck oil. Huge fountains of thick, black liquid shot up into the sky. This oil was called black gold. At first, it seemed like a wonderful blessing. Oil meant money. Oil meant modern cities, hospitals, and schools. But oil is a dangerous treasure. It attracts greedy eyes. Foreign powers, especially Britain and later America, realized they desperately needed Iranian oil to run their own countries and their armies. They wanted to control it completely. This created immense tension. The foreign companies took most of the money, leaving very little for the ordinary people of Iran. Iranians saw their national treasure being pumped out of the ground and sent away. They felt cheated and disrespected in their own home. The desire for independence began to burn brightly in their hearts. They wanted to take back control of their own destiny. In the early 1950s, a brave leader emerged. His name was Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh. Mossadegh was highly educated and deeply loved by the people. He stood up to the foreign powers and said, "Enough is enough." He passed a law to nationalize the oil. This meant the oil belonged to Iran, and the profits would be used to help the Iranian people. The people cheered in the streets. They finally felt truly independent. But the foreign governments were furious. They refused to lose control of the valuable oil. In 1953, foreign intelligence agencies secretly worked together to remove Mossadegh from power. They organized protests and paid people to cause chaos. This event is known as the 1953 coup. Mossadegh was arrested, and his dream of independence was crushed. This was a heartbreaking moment for the nation. It left a deep, painful, emotional scar that lasted for generations. The people felt betrayed by the outside world. After the coup, the king, known as the Shah, was put back into absolute power. The Shah wanted to turn Iran into a powerful, modern country overnight. The era of the last Shah was a time of incredibly rapid change. If you look at photos from the capital city, Tehran, in the 1970s, you might think you were looking at Paris or New York. Women wore short skirts and Western clothes. There were modern cinemas, luxury hotels, and fast sports cars. The economy was booming thanks to the oil money. But pictures only tell half the story. Outside the rich, modern areas of the capital, millions of people lived in poor villages. These traditional, religious people felt completely left behind. They looked at the rapid westernization and felt like they were losing their culture again. They felt lost in a world that was moving too fast. The gap between the rich and the poor was growing huge. Imagine a pot of water on a hot stove with a tight lid on it. That was Iran in the 1970s. The pressure was building quickly. The Shah was modernizing the economy, but he did not allow political freedom. If people criticized the government, they were arrested by the secret police. The fear was real, but the anger was stronger. The water was starting to boil. There was too much change, too fast, and a total lack of freedom to speak. Different groups of people, students, religious leaders, and workers, all started to protest. They wanted their voices heard. They wanted to choose their own future. In 1979, the lid finally blew off the boiling pot. Millions of people poured into the streets in massive, unstoppable crowds. This was the 1979 revolution. The protests were so huge that the entire country shut down. The military could not stop them. Finally, the Shah realized he had lost the country. He packed his bags and flew away forever. The ancient monarchy, a system that had existed since the time of Cyrus the Great, was suddenly dead. A new chapter was beginning. The revolution brought a completely new system called the Islamic Republic. But history is always messy. A revolution is like an earthquake. It destroys the old structures, but building new ones is very hard. The people had united to remove the Shah, but they disagreed on what should come next. Change always brings new and difficult struggles. The nation faced a brutal war and hard economic times. Here is an important emotional takeaway. Governments change, borders change, kings and presidents come and go. But the desire of ordinary people to live with dignity and peace never changes. The people of Iran have endured thousands of years of shifting powers. They have survived kings, conquerors, and revolutions. So, look past the dark news headlines. Who are the real people of Iran today? If you travel to Iran today, you will not find a country of angry people. You will find exactly the opposite. You will find the legendary spirit of Persian hospitality. Treating guests with immense respect is a deep part of their culture. If you ask a stranger for directions, they might just invite you into their home for a fresh cup of tea and a meal. This incredible kindness is wrapped up in a unique cultural concept called ta'arruf. Ta'arruf is the beautiful, complex art of extreme politeness. It is a dance of words and manners. For example, if you want to buy something in a shop, the shopkeeper might politely tell you it is free. They do not really mean it is free, it is just their way of showing deep respect. You have to politely insist on paying, and they will politely insist you shouldn't until finally you both agree. It sounds confusing to foreigners, but it is a beautiful way of putting relationships above money. Ta'arruf shows that human connection is the most important thing. It is a daily reminder to be humble and to treat others like kings and queens, even just for a moment. Today, Iran is a land of beautiful contrast. It is a mix of the ancient past and the very modern present. You can walk down a street and see young people with the latest smartphones, dressed in modern fashion, talking about global technology. But later that evening, those same young people will sit together, drink hot black tea, and read the thousand-year-old poetry of Ferdowsi. They hold on to their deep roots because those roots are what saved them. It is a country of survival. They have lived through economic sanctions, political hardship, and global isolation. But the soul of the culture remains warm, poetic, and incredibly resilient. They find joy in art, in delicious food full of saffron and herbs, and most importantly, in their deep love for their families. This brings us to our final mindset lesson from this ancient land. In life, we all face times when our world feels like it is burning down. We all face personal empires falling. But look at history. Kings come and go. Hard times pass. What survives is not the stone or the gold. What survives is the human spirit. We adapt, we hold on to love, and we endure. The soul of a culture survives through the simple things. It survives in the way a grandmother cooks a traditional meal. It survives in the songs people sing when they are sad. It survives in the way we welcome a stranger. You have the exact same resilience inside of you. Whenever you face a difficult challenge, remember that you are built to survive and rebuild. Now, I want to pause and shift the focus to you. Think about what you just did over the last few minutes. You just listened to a complex 3,000-year-old historical epic. You learned about ancient kings, cultural revolutions, and global politics, and you understood it. You did all of this in a foreign language. That is an absolutely massive achievement. You should be incredibly proud of your focus and your effort today. Learning English takes time, patience, and dedication. But right now, you are proving that you can do it. You are understanding real, meaningful ideas in English. Every sentence you hear makes your brain stronger. Every word you recognize builds your confidence. You are improving every single time you listen to a story like this. I want to remind you why we learn this way. Listening to stories is the most natural way to build your vocabulary and your fluency. You do not need to sit in a boring classroom to master English. When you connect with the emotions of a story, the grammar naturally starts to make sense. The vocabulary sticks in your memory without you even trying to memorize it. Real stories create real human connections. By listening to the story of Iran, you not only improved your English, but you also expanded your understanding of the world. You stepped inside another culture. This is the true magic of learning a language. It opens up the world to you. It connects you to billions of other people, their history, their struggles, and their beautiful traditions. Please take a deep breath and acknowledge your hard work today. You are making real progress on your English journey. Do not worry if you missed a few words here and there. That is completely normal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is connection and understanding. The more you listen, the easier it will become. Trust the process and trust yourself. Thank you for spending this valuable time with me. You are doing something wonderful for your mind and your future. Every time you listen, you get a little bit better, a little bit stronger. Keep practicing, keep listening, keep learning with an open heart. The world is full of amazing stories waiting for you, and I cannot wait to share the next one with you. I will see you in the next story. Wait, let's step back and look at the broader picture of the Iranian spirit today. We've talked about history, but history is only useful if it helps us understand the present. The spirit of the modern Iranian people is deeply tied to the stories of their ancestors. They are modern people living in a modern world, but they carry the pride of an ancient civilization in their hearts. Their legendary hospitality is famous around the world for a very specific reason. In ancient times, the land of Persia was a central stop on the Silk Road. Millions of travelers, merchants, and explorers passed through these lands. Culturally, welcoming strangers safely was essential for survival and trade. That ancient habit evolved into a deep cultural duty. Treating guests perfectly is an absolute requirement. Let us dive deeper into the concept of ta'aruf. It is not just about paying for things in a shop. It is a philosophy of putting others first. When you enter a room, you must offer the best seat to someone else. When a plate of food is passed, you must offer it to everyone else before taking any for yourself. It is a constant exercise in humility. This level of extreme politeness creates a society where people are always trying to elevate each other. It smooths out the rough edges of daily life. Even when people are arguing, they use very polite, respectful language. It forces you to pause and think about the other person's feelings before you speak. Ta'aruf is a beautiful shield against rudeness and anger. This beautiful contrast is what makes Iran so fascinating to study. It is a place where you can visit a grand mosque covered in blue tiles that took centuries to build, and right next to it, young people are drinking coffee and talking about artificial intelligence. The past does not hold them back. It simply gives them a rich foundation to stand upon as they look to the future. You will see young artists using classical Persian calligraphy to create modern digital art. You will hear traditional music mixed with modern beats. They refuse to choose between being ancient and being modern. They choose to be both at the exact same time. This requires a lot of creativity and intelligence. It shows a society that knows how to adapt to survive. And they are still reading that thousand-year-old poetry. In many Western countries, ancient poetry is only read in universities. But in Iran, a taxi driver, a doctor, and a student can all quote lines of Ferdowsi, Hafez, or Rumi from memory. The poetry is still alive. It is used to give advice, to express deep sorrow, or to celebrate grand joy. This deep connection to language is why this country has such a profound soul. It is a country of survival and incredibly deep roots. No matter how harsh the political climate becomes, the roots of the culture are too deep to be pulled out. They draw their water from a well of history that no modern problem can easily destroy. This brings us perfectly to our final, powerful mindset lesson. I want you to apply the lesson of Iran to your own life. Empires rise and fall. Success and failure come and go like the wind. You will have seasons in your life where everything feels like it is working perfectly, and you will have seasons where everything feels like it is falling apart. Kings come and go. Bosses change. Jobs end. Relationships evolve. The external world is always shifting and changing, sometimes very unfairly. If you tie your identity entirely to what is happening on the outside, you will be easily broken when the storm comes. You need something deeper to hold on to when the world gets loud and chaotic. The soul of a culture survives through art, food, family, and shared memories. Your personal soul survives the same way. Focus on your deep roots. Focus on the core values that make you who you are. Focus on the people you love, the kindness you show others, and the skills you build inside your mind. No one can ever conquer or steal the knowledge in your head. We can all adapt and endure hard times. We can be like the Persian language during the Arab conquest, refusing to disappear, quietly growing stronger, and eventually singing beautifully again. Whenever you feel overwhelmed by the rapid changes in your own life, remember this ancient land. Remember that survival is an art, and you are more resilient than you know. Now, let us bring this focus completely back to you and your English learning journey. Take a moment to really think about what you did today. Think about the complex themes we explored: tolerance, conquest, cultural identity, political revolution, and philosophical poetry. These are advanced, sophisticated concepts. You just understood 3,000 years of incredibly complex history, and you did it all in English. Your brain processed foreign grammar, connected it to historical images, and extracted meaningful emotional lessons. That is a highly advanced mental workout. It proves that you have moved far beyond basic vocabulary. You are interacting with the world in English. I praise your focus and your constant effort. It is not easy to stay engaged with a long story in a second language. It takes energy. But every minute you spend listening like this, you are carving new, strong pathways in your brain. You are transforming English from a subject you study into a tool you actually use to experience life. Listening to stories is undeniably the most natural way to learn. Humans have been learning through stories for thousands of years, long before schools or textbooks were ever invented. When you listen to a narrative, you are not fighting against your brain, you are working with it. Stories give words meaning, context, and emotion, which makes them unforgettable. You are building vocabulary and fluency without memorizing lists. When we talked about the boiling pots or the fire, you understood those metaphors deeply because they were attached to a historical drama. This is how native speakers learn. They learn by hearing words used in powerful situations. You are mirroring that exact natural process right now. Real stories create real human connections. Learning English is not the final goal. It is a bridge. It is a bridge that allows you to walk into different countries, talk to different people, and understand different perspectives. By mastering this language, you are unlocking the entire world. You are making yourself a true global citizen. Be incredibly proud of your progress today. Celebrate this small victory. Consistency is the secret to fluency. You do not need to study for 10 hours a day. You just need to show up, listen, and engage consistently. You have shown up today, and you have done excellent work. Let this feeling of accomplishment push you forward. Thank you for sharing this incredible journey with me. Keep practicing your listening every single day. Keep learning with curiosity and an open mind. The history of the world is vast, and there are so many more incredible stories waiting for you to discover. Keep moving forward, and I will see you in the next story.